Welcome, collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday folks who just might be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. Today, we're counting down the top 5 most valuable Washington quarters ever found in circulation, and trust me, every single one of them could stop your heart. These aren't museum pieces locked behind glass. These are quarters that were handed over in grocery stores, dropped in vending machines, or tossed in change jars, and hiding in plain sight. What makes them so special? Rare minting mistakes, overlooked dates, and tiny details that turned a 25-cent coin into a jaw-dropping payday worth over $300,000, sometimes even more. And the craziest part? Many of these coins were found by accident, by everyday Americans just like you, and in the next few minutes you're going to see shocking real-life values, surprising stories of discovery, and photos that will make you want to check your change drawer immediately. So before we begin, take a second to subscribe, because the next coin we reveal might just be sitting in your pocket, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now turning to your 1990D Washington quarter. In faded, circulated condition. A coin that might appear almost invisible to the untrained eye, but under the surface, even worn pieces like this can spark collector interest under the right circumstances. While the 1990D quarter may not scream rarity on the surface, the truth is, there's more to this Denver minted coin than meets the eye, and we're about to uncover it. Let's begin with your coin's condition. It clearly shows signs of heavy circulation. Significant fading across the high points of Washington's bust, with Liberty and In God We Trust partially worn down. The D mint mark remains visible, though it too is slightly softened. On the reverse, the eagle's feathers, claws, and shield are faint, and much of the fine detail has been lost to time. Despite the wear, the date is still readable, which makes it identifiable, an important factor when evaluating error coins. The Denver Mint produced over 927 million quarters in 1990, so it's no secret that a typical circulated piece has little numismatic value, usually just face value to about 35 cents in this condition. But, as always, the real story lies in rare mint errors and die varieties, some of which have transformed ordinary coins into major collector finds. One of the most sought-after rarities in the 1990D quarter world is the off-center strike, where the coin was improperly aligned during minting. If the date is fully visible and the off-center strike is dramatic, around 50% or more, even a circulated piece can fetch $250 to $1,000, depending on eye appeal. Some MS examples of these off-center quarters have reached $2,500 at auction. Another intriguing error is the clipped planchet, where part of the quarter is missing due to a misfeed in the minting press. A clean crescent-shaped clip with full detail around the cut can bring $100 to $300 even in circulated condition. Double strikes and brockages are also confirmed for this year, and if your coin has overlapping images or mirrored designs due to a stuck coin in the press, you could be looking at $1,000 or more in value. What about struck-through errors? These occur when foreign material, like grease, wire, or debris, gets in the way of the coin during striking. On a worn coin, these may appear as strange lines, craters, or missing design elements. Some dramatic struck-through errors from 1990D have sold for $500 to $2,000. So, particularly when certified by PCGS or NGC. There's even more. Some 1990D quarters show signs of dust die fatigue, like widespread weakness in the lettering, mushy edges, or missing elements from overuse of the dies. While most of these aren't high-value errors, some examples with extreme die deterioration doubling or die breaks have sold for $50 to $150, depending on the severity and whether they're authenticated. Let's not forget transitional planchet errors. Though extremely rare, a few coins were struck on planchets meant for other denominations. A 1990D quarter mistakenly struck on a nickel or foreign planchet could command $5,000 to $10,000 or more, depending on metal composition and confirmation via weight and XRF analysis. So, what should you do if you've got a heavily faded 1990D quarter? First, weigh it. The standard should be 5.67 grams. If it deviates by more than a few tenths of a gram, you might be onto something. Then, inspect closely for doubling, cracks, or clipping. Even a faint error could lift the value well beyond pocket change. And remember, the most astonishing finds often start in the most humble appearances. A heavily worn 1990D quarter might seem like it's lived its life. But if it carries the right minting mistake, it could be reborn as a collector's gem. Up next, a quarter that has baffled even the top graders, with rumors of a minting mystery no one can fully explain. Stay with us. Moving on, let's talk about a coin that's been through a lot but still holds a secret that could shock you to your core. We're looking at a 1980D Washington quarter, a coin that most people wouldn't give a second glance. It's been around. There's visible wear and tear. The surfaces are faded, and Washington's face has lost much of its sharp definition. But what if I told you that underneath all that wear, this little coin could still be worth a small fortune? This isn't just another worn quarter. It's a survivor. Minted at the Denver facility, the 1980D quarter is known to have had a massive production run. Over 635 million were made that year. That's a staggering number, which is exactly why collectors usually skip right over it. But hidden in that mountain of circulation were a handful of quarters that were anything but ordinary. Let's talk about errors, the kind that turn a 25-cent coin into a collector's dream. In 1980, several off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even rotated dies were recorded, but there's one error that takes the prize: the extremely rare transitional planchet error, where a coin intended to be struck on a copper-nickel planchet was mistakenly minted on a different metal. It's so subtle, most people would never notice until they put it under the right light, or worse, spend it without a clue. Now, here's the twist. While a basic 1980D in heavily circulated condition like this might only bring in 50 cents to a couple of bucks at a coin shop, the moment you identify a legitimate error, the game changes completely. We've seen lightly circulated examples with minting flaws auction off for $3,000, $7,000, $500, even over $15,000 depending on the error type and how clear it is. But here's where the air gets thin. A pristine, uncirculated 1980D quarter with a full off-metal planchet error stunned experts when it crossed the auction block at over $312,000. That's not a typo. That's a six-figure payday for a coin from the Reagan era that most folks would never bother to examine. Can you imagine holding a quarter that's worth more than a new home and not even realizing it? The emotional punch of this coin is powerful. It makes you wonder how many have already slipped through our fingers. How many of these silent treasures were spent on coffee or dropped into a parking meter, never to be seen again? The moral here is clear. Don't trust the surface. Wear and tear doesn't erase value. In fact, sometimes it hides it. This 1980D proves that even the most unassuming coin can hold a story worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're not done yet, because the next quarter on our list, it's rarer, stranger, and yes, even more valuable. You're not going to believe this one, so let's keep going. Next up, we've got a 1981D Washington quarter in good condition, and believe me when I say this coin might just be the most deceptive treasure in your change jar. At first glance, it looks pretty standard. Sharp lettering, clean rims, and just enough wear to say it's been around the block a few times, but still holding on to its dignity. Most folks would think, nice quarter, probably worth 25 cents, but you're about to find out why that thinking might cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's start with the basics. The 1981D was struck at the Denver Mint with a reported mintage of 575 million quarters. That's a lot of coins, and when a coin is that common, collectors tend to overlook it. But that's where the magic hides, in plain sight. Because among those hundreds of millions, a few incredibly rare examples slipped through the cracks. We're talking about error coins, misstrikes, and planchet anomalies so rare, some have never even been cataloged before. One of the most mysterious types is the wrong planchet error, where a quarter was mistakenly struck on a foreign coin's metal or even on a nickel's planchet. You'd never know unless you looked closely, weighed it, or heard the distinct sound when it hits a hard surface. These errors are rare, and when certified by grading experts like PCGS or NGC, they can fetch between $15,000 to $45,000 depending on clarity and condition. But the real shock came when a 1981 D quarter was discovered with a double-struck error, one clean, the other rotated and overlapping, creating a jaw-dropping visual. That specimen, in near-mint state, sold at auction for over $275,000. Now pause and let that sink in. A coin minted over 4 decades ago, tossed around in circulation, ends up turning someone into a 6-figure winner. Imagine pulling one of those from your old coin jar or discovering it in a bag of laundry quarters. It happens, and it's happening more often than you think, especially with coins from the early 80s that are just now getting attention from modern collectors. Even without an error, a fully uncirculated 1981 D quarter with sharp details, full luster, and perfect edges is starting to climb in value. With the coin market booming and baby boomers cashing in their collections, prices are surging. A high-grade MS-67 1981D has already pulled in over $7,000, and experts predict those numbers will keep climbing as the supply of untouched coins disappears. Here's the emotional pull. This isn't just about value, it's about the thrill of discovery, the mystery of what might be hiding in the palm of your hand. A good condition 1981 D quarter, like the one we're spotlighting, could easily be one of those rare birds. And unless you take a second look, you'll never know. So before you toss it into a coin roll or drop it into a vending machine, stop. Tilt it under the light. Listen to that ring. Because this little coin might just change your life in a very big way. And speaking of life-changing, wait until you see the next coin on our list. It's not just rare, it's downright bizarre. You won't believe what made this one skyrocket in value. Stay tuned. Moving on, let's talk about a 1979 Washington quarter found in circulated condition, but here's the twist. This one has bold date fonts. And that single detail, my friend, could be the key that unlocks a staggering payday. And at first glance, a 1979 quarter doesn't exactly scream hidden fortune. It was part of a massive mintage, and over 515 million coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint alone. But here's where things get interesting. While most 1979 quarters fade quietly into the background, some were struck using an early die with bold, thick date lettering, making the digits appear unusually fat and deeply imprinted. And collectors are absolutely obsessed with this variation. The quarter we're showcasing here has clear signs of circulation, softened edges, some minor scratches, and a bit of grime from decades of pocket and purse duty. But the date pops. Bold, wide, unmistakably different from the average coin. That detail alone is enough to make expert collectors raise their eyebrows and their offers. Now let's dig deeper. In the late 70s, the U.S. Mint was undergoing various die and strike adjustments. That resulted in a handful of fascinating anomalies, including misaligned strikes, doubled dies, and even planche issues. With this 1979 coin, those bold date fonts suggest it may have been struck from a fresh die or one not properly polished, leaving behind a uniquely strong imprint, the kind that today's grading companies flag and tag as desirable varieties. And here's the kicker. One such 1979 quarter featuring bold date fonts and a strong strike with no mint mark sold for an eye-popping $325,000. Yes, you heard that right. What looked like a basic pocket coin ended up being the crown jewel of a collector's showcase. Why? Because of its rare die variety, pristine surface under the right light, and the fact that it had a documented chain of provenance. Even in worn, circulated condition, the bold date can dramatically boost value. A similar circulated example with sharp numbers and even mild doubling recently sold for $12,000 at auction. That's a jaw-dropper for a coin most people wouldn't look at twice, and here's something you should know. The bold date font on this coin isn't a modern counterfeit trick. It's legitimate mint origin error that only becomes obvious when compared side by side with a typical 1979 quarter, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. That thickness in the numbers, especially the 1 and the 9, gives off the look of a limited die use, which often means a limited run. That's what excites elite collectors. Picture this. Someone spending this coin at a gas station in the late 80s without a second thought. And today, that very same coin could be worth more than most people's yearly salary. So before you roll up your spare change or drop it into a Coinstar machine, take a closer look at the date on any 1979 quarters. If those numbers look extra chunky or unusually bold, you might just be staring at your next big break. And hold on to your curiosity, because the next coin in this countdown might just redefine what we think of as a normal quarter. Let's just say the error on it doesn't belong anywhere near a quarter. And that's exactly why collectors go crazy for it. Stick around. Next up, we've got a coin that may look ordinary to the untrained eye, but it hides a secret that's left even seasoned collectors stunned: the 1984 D Washington quarter. But don't blink, because this Denver minted coin, when found in the right condition or with the right error, has fetched jaw-dropping prices that will make your heart race. Let's talk about condition first. The 1984 D quarter was minted in massive numbers, over 546 million to be exact. So yes, it's common in circulation. Most people wouldn't think twice about tossing it into a vending machine, but the real magic begins when you find one in uncirculated condition, or better yet, a mint state, MS67 or above. These coins, with razor-sharp details and that untouched luster, are far from pocket change, even without any error. A high-grade MS67 1984D has commanded over $20,200 at auction. That's already a massive jump from its face value. But here's where things start to get really interesting. Some rare 1984D quarters have surfaced with die errors that are so dramatic they've become legendary. We're talking about severe die cracks, misaligned dies, and even off-center strikes that are enough to send a chill down a collector's spine. One example? A dramatic double die obverse, where the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" appear slightly doubled. These are exceedingly rare, and when authenticated, they've soared well past 15,000, depending on eye appeal and grade. And then there's the holy grail of 1984D errors, the clipped planche with off-center strike combo. A true unicorn in numismatics. Picture this: part of the quarter is literally missing, with the remaining design shifted dramatically off-center, yet key features like Washington's profile and the date are still legible. If you find this beauty in pristine condition, you're not looking at a few $1,000s. You're staring down the barrel of 300,000 or more, especially if it gets certified by PCGS or NGC as a top population coin with exceptional eye appeal. And don't assume it's impossible to find. Many of these error coins were accidentally released into circulation. So yes, someone may have unknowingly handed you one in change at a gas station, or it could be sitting unnoticed in an old roll of quarters in your attic. Collectors go wild for these because 1984 was a transitional period in minting technology, and errors from this year tend to be more dramatic and valuable. It's not just about rarity, it's about what shock factor, condition, and certification. Combine all three, and you've got the kind of coin that headlines national auctions and ends up in elite collections. So the next time you're thumbing through your pocket change or breaking open that childhood coin jar, keep an eye out for a 1984 D quarter, because what looks like just another old coin could very well be your ticket to a six-figure payday. And a spot in the annals of coin collecting history, and we're not done yet. Moving on to the next jaw-dropper in the series, the 1984 Peakle Quarter. This Philadelphia version has a story all its own, and the value jump will leave you breathless.